Chapter 8. The Waterhoth Sathator Dance of Victory. Entriua watched Kite's scandalous behavior with speechless bafflement. The man had transformed before his very eyes. His timid personality had all but evaporated like a puddle under a blazing sun, and a sadistic smile turned his formerly handsome visage into an ugly perversion. "And how do you propose to make me pay, you of scum?" Kite scoffed. "If you really care so much for your little pet, then why don't you get on with it and do as I say? It's not like you subhumans have any scruples or shame. You're just a loathsome homunculus, you depraved scum of." The Ovlass embraced the youth in her arms and stabbed at Kite with a glare not unlike a laser. She didn't avert her baleful stare as she laid the lad down. And no, the young man could be heard mumbling. Entriua was struck with admiration. "I don't believe it. The Ov girl means to scrap with Kite barehanded." The boy catoned onto her intentions and desperately attempted to keep her from going. He tottered over to cover her. The Ov girl's shield. At that instant, Entriua had decided whose side to take. And it just so happened to be consistent with the mandates of Clasbulian law. Entriua pushed a needle gun to Kite's temple. "Enough. What are you doing?" Kite panicked. "Are you afraid the Empire will retaliate? Then you needn't worry. Our fleet may have suffered a temporary defeat, but our invincible land war unit is unscathed. We shall continue to defend and maintain this surface world until, by the favor of the powers that be, we secure all of space once again. So stick by the side of justice without fear." "Oh, that's exactly what I'm doing," Entriua interrupted. "I don't give a rat's ass who rules space. But on this planet, it's Clasbul's law and justice system that ought to prevail, and your actions right now fly against them. It's a shame, too. I was starting to feel for you. I'm just dealing with a fraught situation with the proper rigor. Now I know why the police on your world were so hated." Entriua then addressed his subordinates. "Hey, take this pinhead's gun, would you?" His order was executed by the closest officer. "You've made a terrible mistake, Inspector. Our proud army will surely punish you." "Ov girl," said Entriua, ignoring Kite's forewarning. "It's as you can see. I apologize for my mismanagement as the boss here, but I'm still going to ask you to come with me. That young man needs first aid." Her shadow-black eyes regarded him. Such a pretty young thing. Entriua marveled. She was covered in dirt, but that only highlighted her shining beauty all the more. The pride and dignity that kept her from taking a single step back, even amidst a sea of strangers and hostiles, were clear to see in the glint of her eyes. He'd previously pictured the Ov as lofty beings perched beyond the clouds, but at least with her, the stateliness with which she carried herself had kissed the surface as well. "Can't blame him at all for being so loyal," he mused, glancing at the boy who had been shot. For better or worse, he was the typical city boy that didn't exist among first-generation settlers. Which was to say, he had a weakling, vaguely unreliable air about him, which wasn't dispelled by the fact that he'd come to this point by surviving a firefight that had even the police too frightened to act. Kite's mad laughter rang through the scene. "You can cover for the Ov all you like, Inspector. I'll just have her dragged out of your detention center. Don't forget, the Ov is mine. I'll be taking a whole host of soldiers straight to your doorstep, so don't think for a second you'll get away with this, Inspector." Damn it, that rotter's right, he admitted to himself. I'll hand her over to the occupiers quicker than breathing. But wait, that might not necessarily be the case. After all, if he's got one good point, it's how quick he is to adapt, and now that the Ov have returned, he won't be quite so keen to butter up to this upstart army anymore. That said, by now the Liberation Army must have noticed they're not particularly welcome here, and so their manners have turned rougher. As of late, they might just be willing to blow up a police force or two. But us guardians of the law could hardly sit idly by as these rabid mutts have their merry way. "Inspector Entriac," said the Ov. "I am choosing to believe you." "Good. In that case." However, Entriua was never to hear the rest of that sentence. 3 streaks of white smoke traced arcs in the air and exploded at Entriua's feet. Entriua leapt back. "Who the mist shells?" shouted an officer, frantic. Just before getting engulfed in the mist, Entriua spied a hover car ride rushing over the embankment. Jinto had no idea what just happened. Before he knew it, His surroundings were suffused by a thick fog. Looks just like the scenery of the river in the realm of the dead, like Grandma used to say, Jinto recalled. Guess it's true after all, huh? Which means I've gone and snuffed it. Or have I? I can't even tell. I mean, I can still feel Leifier's warmth on my back. Is she dead too? Or might I still be one for this world? Lef. A voice from beyond the mist addressed him by the word for imperial citizen. Jinto started. It was Min's voice. Don't dawdle. Come. There's no time to waste. Jinto slid an arm around Leifier's shoulders and pressed forward. Don't fire. We might shoot each other by accident. And Trua yelled. The hovercar began levitating within the fog. Jinto stuck his head through its open door. In this situation, Leifier of course pushed Jinto in and tried turning back. Where are you going? He grabbed her wrist in the nick of time. Let go of me. Leifier was on a tear. There's no time. Marka, who was beside Jinto, helped him pull her up into the car. We're set, Bill. Time to cheese it. Bill exclaimed. The hovercar got rolling. In the space of mere moments, it wove through the officers and sprinted down the road. Let go of me, Jinto. Leifier writhed in his right arm. I have something I've yet to do. Ow, ow, ow. Hey, I'm wounded here. A bit softer with me, please, he said, scowling from the pain in his shoulder. Besides, what have you got to do anyway? What do you think, she said, her ire more than plain. I'm going to take the man who harmed you and turn him into fuel for the plasma winds of space. A poetic end for him, I should think. It wasn't a bad feeling, seeing her blow her top over him and him alone. But he couldn't exactly let her slake her thirst for revenge. But we're not in the vacuum of space, said Jinto, to calm her down. He'd at most turn into a charred corpse smearing a decent length of the ground, which isn't the most poetic thing I've ever heard. Good. That would be the most fitting death for him. How would you even manage it unarmed? I'd snatch a weapon, she asserted categorically. So reckless, Undertaker sighed. Now, be precise with your words, Min chided. What he means by that particular choice of words is that you ought to take greater care in your deeds. You can take your time killing his ass later, Jinto told the royal princess. Leifier's eyes widened with shock. You are a cruel and brutal man, I don't count, taking my time to kill people among my hobbies. That's not what I meant. Listen, you two, said Bill from the driver's seat, his voice weary and fed up. I hate to butt in on your delightful little chat, but do you feel like closing the door for me? The Offsfootsie stuck in it. Faye, I suppose I must. And with that, Leifier corrected her posture in her seat. Then she looked at Jinto's left shoulder, her expression turning concerned for the first time. Are you okay, Jinto? It's just a scratch, he said, acting tough, while at the same time chagrined she didn't ask sooner. It's not just a scratch, said Marka, also glancing at the shoulder. Your collarbones popped clean off. If we don't treat it quickly, your whole left arm will need regenerating. Please, said Jinto, scowling once again. I don't need to hear the details. I feel like I could faint any second. You can faint. Daswani, dress it for him, said Marka, switching seats with the big lug. Wordlessly, Daswani stopped the bleeding and applied local anesthesia to Jinto's shoulder, then rubbed on some regeneration stimulant. Next, he wrapped his arm in bandages and sprayed it with a hardening agent, thereby holding it in place. Jinto endured. I feel like you've got something to say, said Undertaker. And if I had to guess, it'd maybe be words of thanks, or maybe words of thanks, or maybe even words of thanks. I thank you a millionfold, said Leifier. Thanks for treating my wound. Jinto rubbed his shoulder, whose pain had dulled. But you're still planning to hold us hostage, aren't you? Of course we are. We still want our spaceships, said Marka, as though it had been foolish to ask. Well, I'm against it. A shudder went down Undertaker's frame. I don't need any more misfortune in my life. It was then Jinto realized their unfavorable position. No weapons left. I don't get it. Why didn't you run? We did run. But the situation changed. What do you mean? Well, after we left the caves and Bill picked us up, there started to be radio jamming, she explained. Seems the soldiers at the checkpoints withdrew to the city center, too. Which'd mean. Just look at that, she said, pointing out the window. 6 points of light left complex traces in the night sky as they repeatedly assembled and separated. Only the Ov do those kinds of meaningless maneuvers. They're not meaningless, said Lefier. That's the dance of victory. A show of force to send the message that they have taken over the skies. That's how you learned of the Star Force's return, is it not? What an obnoxious custom. Very Ov-like, Bill remarked. Then the Empire's retaken the planet. Jinto rejoiced. Not yet on the surface, they haven't. But they'll be touching down any moment. Everybody together. All officers, get in your rides. We're going after them, shouted Entriua. Though much of the mist had cleared, they had to search for their vehicles by memory and blind fumbling. Suddenly, the ground rumbled, and the mist fluctuated. What now? Entriua was getting sick of this. Is it them? No one else it could be, huh? All right, people, hurry up, unless you're in for another headache. But the sound of their disciplined march came slightly quicker than the cops could manage to depart. Stop right there, rang a high-handed voice. Move and we shoot. You're talking to the police. Entriua barked right back. We were about to tail the suspects. Don't get in our way. We'll shoot, police or not. Green-brown uniforms appeared from within the fog, eyeing the convoy of cars. I hear you have an officer of ours? Kite saluted. Military Police Lieutenant Kite speaking. And you are? Lieutenant Sleet. Where's the Ov? Didn't she come to this area? She escaped. Kite knitted his brows and frowned. Escaped? You mean to say she got the better of this place's police? They're useless. Nothing more than the lapdog dupes of the slave Democrats. I must say, though, that you let her slip away despite your regulation equipment. This is not regulation equipment. Due to needing to give chase through the caverns by foot, we had no choice but to stow all heavy weapons behind. So you say, but then Kite realized that the machine translator had been left on. Afterward, both commissioned officers turned off their translation devices, so he couldn't understand the conversation from there on out. Of course, he had no interest in their game of blame-shifting anyway. That said, he couldn't shake his ominous feeling, which turned into reality in short order. Inspector, said Kite, flashing a superficial smile, we must chase and catch the Ov. We were about to until they stopped us. No, we will be chasing them. And commandeering your cars to do it. You'll what? Our proud army has no means of transport, added Sleet. That is why we're in need of you folks' vehicles. We'll take only the drivers among you and have the rest stay here. And we don't get a say in this? By what authority do you? By this authority. Sleet pressed a handgun to the tip of Entriua's nose. We have no time. Make it snappy. You tell him. Kite was overjoyed by this turnabout. Don't worry, we'll take you to Inspector. You can give us directions. Oh, and I'd like to have you hand me my weapon back while we're at it. But how'd you know we were going to be there? Wondered Jinto. The chances were 50-50, shrugged Min, but it would have been tougher to find you if you ended up exiting through the main cave system. Too many possible exits. That's why we put up a net for you on the Dream Park side. We knew we were right on the money when they started evacuating people from the park, and from there we could choose the perfect time to strike. Would have loved it if you kidnapped us before I got shot. Well, aren't we the little prince, said Undertaker disgustedly. I'll have you know we tread on some damn dangerous ground ourselves. Never mind that, there's something we'd like to ask the little Ov lady. Marka placed a hand on her forehead. What? Lefier looked away from the glorious dance of victory unfolding in the night sky to face her. Earlier, before we entered the caves, I saw your ear. And it's been bugging me ever since, but it wasn't the right time to ask. Jinto's heart raced. It only came back to mind after we'd gotten separated. I can be a big ditz sometimes. But I still can't believe it. I just can't. What's the question? Lefier egged her on. Here goes. Are the Avriel heirs allowed outside the imperial family? They are not, she replied with clarity. I thought so. Then may I ask you your name, Honorable Fee? I am Avriel Sek ne Duberskirbear Perian Lamhair. A solemn pall of silence. The militants of the Klasbiel anti-imperial front were too busy processing this fresh revelation to make a sound. It was Jinto who broke the silence, concluding that now that Lefier's social status had come to light, there would be no point keeping his own hidden. As for me, nobody asked for your name, Imperial citizen, Bill butted in. All right then. Jinto clammed up. On second thought, while it was true that keeping it hidden would be pointless, he realized revealing it would be just as much so. I did think it was strange, said Min. I looked into it, and the Marquisate of Svogov has 2 Irelimek, noble princesses. The oldest of them is 8 years old. Oh, things are strange, that's for damn sure, griped Undertaker. The hell's a royal princess of the Empire doing in a place like this? Did you hear that, Jinto? Leifier's eyes sparkled. Even terrestrial citizens know the difference between an imperial princess and a royal princess. Hold a grudge much? You're just that type, I guess. It's not like I meant anything by it, so whatever. Whatever is right, just answer the question, Undertaker grumbled. We were aboard a certain patrol ship, said Jinto, taking it on himself to explain. That patrol ship got attacked. I wasn't a star pilot, so. Must have been an NCC, said Bill. Nope, not an NCC either. I was just hitching a ride. Hitching a ride? Marka cocked her head. You can hitch a ride on a patrol ship? I can. Just so happened to be of noble rank, he said nonchalantly. And as I'm not a soldier, I was told to flee from the field of battle. But I can't work a connecting vessel's controls, so Leifier was assigned to me. Aboard the patrol ship, she was just another trainee star pilot, you see. Hold on, said Marka, confused. You're a noble too? Yep. Least, that's what I ended up becoming. Bill whistled. You really don't look like one. I get that all the time, he quipped. Wonder why. Lots of questions today, said Marka. But let's narrow question time down to what I'm more immediately interested in. Our hostages are a member of the Imperials and a noble. Plus, I'm fairly sure Nei Dubrisker is a surname associated with the monarchy to which the Empress belonged. Am I off the mark? I am Her Majesty the Empress's granddaughter, and Jinto is the noble prince of a Khaundam, said Leifier. We are not, however, your hostages. I assure you you are, she said flatly. How could we possibly let such valuable hostages go? Forget about exchanging you for spaceships. We might even be able to come by Min's ultimate dream, independence. I am grateful to all of you, said Leifier. As such, I must tell you the truth. Misfortune has dogged all who have attempted to extort the Empire to the ends of their days. Referring, of course, to those few who survived to see another day. I don't doubt it. Yet another shudder ran down Undertaker. I'm miserable enough as it is. The windows gleamed. The peak of the mountain that towered over the horizon was brightly aglow. Lightning whipped the peak from the heavens above, sending rays of light out into a crazed dance each time. Must be the Ovs above surface assault, muttered Min. As though any one of them didn't already know. What could they be attacking in a place like that? Jinto wondered aloud, spellbound by the sheer spectacle. At last, the rumble of thunder reached them. Something dawned on Marka. Bill, is the jamming still in effect? White noise permeated the car. Still no good, said Bill, shaking his head. I see. And I thought for sure they were attacking the radio stations. No, you're probably right. There used to be a really strong signal source until a bit back, but now it's gone. Looks like they paid the wider area station a visit. Any other places? Dunno. Weak radio waves are coming in from all over the place. No clue how many sources. All likely the work of Dame Vusek, Yemway bugs, Leifier conjectured. The star forces possess similar devices. Yemway bugs? Bugs that generate EM waves, said Min, curious. They're self-propagating nanomachines, and they're a pain to exterminate. Now I know. By the way, I wonder if the OV will attack the capital. I don't think they will. You don't think? Min had been expecting a more concrete reply. Full-scale land war is the endgame stage for the star forces. Before reaching that stage, they generally destroy means of communication and transport, or might send in the Bio-User aerial fleet. I doubt they'd attack the capital so suddenly. Where do you plan to imprison us? Jinto asked, apprehensive. They could very well be exposed to Star Force's fire depending on the area. We plan on using Undertaker's place. You yourself must be well aware. I told you, no way in hell, Undertaker protested. Then we'll have to make it where Undertaker works. Why is it always me? Where else could we? Besides, you want to go tell outside cells about it, get this juicy. I say Min's holiday home would be way better. Are you nuts? Think about it. They'd never suspect we'd choose to go back right after what happened. It's just too much to hope for. And with that, Marka shot down the idea. It's settled, Bill. We're headed for the funeral hall. I think for the time being, we'd maybe better focus on giving this place the slip, urged Bill. It's the heat. They're on our tails. Econe. Econe, barked Sleet. After the large curves in the road drivers inevitably encountered upon leaving Gazanyu Dream Park, the way to the streets of Gazanyu proper continued dead straight. Entering that unbending stretch, the hover cars zipping in the distance would then come into view. Do you not have vehicle-equipped weaponry? Asked Kite. No, of course not. Entriua folded his arms and pressed a foot against the seat in front. No need. The crime's not that serious round these parts. That's a shame. Kite pushed the gun he'd regained to Entriua's head. In any case, I do believe you ought to adjust your posture, Inspector. You're our prisoner. Is that right? He replied, cocking an eyebrow. I thought you hired me to give directions. Don't defy us. Kite shouted in his face. Just do as we say, you mental slave. Entriua concluded that open opposition was inadvisable. After all, he was dealing with an unstable child. If he was stupid enough to persist in stubbornness, then theirs would amount to no more than a spat between schoolboys. Only in this playground quarrel, one of the kids held a lethal weapon. As you wish, master. Entriua dropped the foot. Ebreek. Sleet commanded. At that cue, the occupation soldiers leaned out the windows and started firing. Those aren't police. The police don't pack that kind of weaponry. Incessantly, the bullets pelted. With explosive power despite their small caliber, the crusher bullets gouged holes all over the shining roadway. Yet none reached their car. So far, the bullets were only hitting spaces of road that they'd already passed. Shouldn't we, I dunno, go off-road or something? Screamed Undertaker. There'd be no point, said Min calmly. They must have detectors that allow them to take aim. Going off-road would only hurt by causing us to decelerate. But there's still that radio jamming. You know nothing. Communications and detectors work over different bandwidths. Afraid he's right, said Bill, who picked up speed. Don't worry, Undertaker. I removed all of the safety mechanisms for a time like this. But driving straight ahead's basically asking them to snipe us off the road. Aerodynamically speaking, we should be too far away for them to ever hit us, said Min, as composed as ever. I don't know what their guns are capable of, but judging by the fact that we haven't gotten hit yet, I don't think I'm mistaken. In fact, the bullets haven't even reached that close to us. I'm praying you're not mistaken, said Marka, who had her hands clasped in front of her chest. Have you got anything to add, Leifir? You know, as an expert in war, said Jinto. I'm not an expert on war in terrestrial worlds. Leifir seemed wounded for some reason. Regardless, I suggest you prepare your phasers. At this distance, the damping is not enough. Do you have anything, Min? Asked Marka. I do. Should be able to make use of the smokescreen rounds. Former Republic of Kamantare military issue, K2-11 model. It's made out to have the best EM wave absorption rate in cosmic history. Then why didn't you pull them out sooner? Undertaker blasted. Because they took a great deal of effort to acquire, said Min. Now's the time, if you don't mind, Marka ordered. Min reluctantly drew the satchel closer, retrieved what looked like a can, and tossed it out the window. I might as well throw these in for good measure. Min grabbed from the satchel 10-odd discs, each around 3 dag in diameter, and scattered them over the road. Bill looked back from the driver's seat. What are those? Sensor mines. They're designed with killing people in mind, but I don't see why they wouldn't work against cars. Holy hell, where the good goddamn did you get this stuff? You're nuts for weapons, nuts. Oh, those I made myself. Already tested them too. They may seem small, but they're high performance and with extremely low incidence of mechanical error, he boasted. But never mind that. Bill, can you shake them off? Leave it to me. This baby's the fastest ground crawler in Classbuel. And we've got a lead. Won't this thing go any faster? Sleet shouted at the officer driving. No can do, said Entriua, having the back of his cowering subordinate. This is a command car. It's not built to be able to catch up to a speeding car. That's why we send the patrol cars first. Why didn't you say that before, damn it? You didn't ask, he said, unruffled. That was met by a smack upside the mouth, delivered by Kite with the handle of his gun. Prick. He was dizzy with fury. He could list a number of things he hadn't much liked about how they'd treated him, but he never hit them. Entriua managed to swallow his rage and wiped the blood from his mouth. Suddenly, the car slowed. They looked up and saw a wall of black approaching. "Don't slow down, it's just a smokescreen," said Sleet, nudging the driver in the head. The command car ventured into the thick black brume, and the vapor, highly viscous, moved in through the windows kept open for firing. Entriua covered his face with his hands, hoping to protect his eyes and nose. Suddenly, that instant, a merciless kapow. "We get hit." Even as Entriua struggled to make heads or tails of the situation, the car lurched left. A mine. It blasted the electromagnet. With the electromagnet at the hovercar's front left down for the count, all balance was lost. The horrid screech of metal scraping against the luminescent pavement of the road assailed their ears. "All cars halt," ordered Sleet. "Don't stop, veer away." Entriua leaned against the driver's seat. "We'd just be bumping right into the next ones, you dimwit." The driver chose Entriua to obey and took the car into the field at the side of the road. The patrol cars that had been following them also ran into disaster. The one that punched the smokescreen right after the command vehicle got its anterior electromagnets destroyed. The frontal part that had been raised now swayed by wind pressure. It careened sideways and turned over, sliding across the road on its roof. The patrol's cars after that one proceeded to collide into it. To add to the list of woes, those cars that slammed on the brakes even more got hit by rear-end collisions, while others pitched forward above the cars that had stopped, and still others evaded those fates only to eat landmine blasts. At last, the very last car in the line divined from the noise that something had happened beyond the mists, so its occupants released the wheels, rode into the fields, and thus became the sole car to avoid any damage. "Quick, get away." Entriua waved his hands in the air, forgetting the position he was in. Soldiers and police officers alike came crawling out of their respective wrecks. Police cars had a reputation for sturdiness. Regardless of the severity of the damage, there seemed to be next to no casualties to speak of. But they couldn't afford to dawdle. The hydrogen fuel of the toppled cars had caught flame, and a blast rocked both soldiers and officers. The crops were also engulfed, and the smoke of the fires mixed with the smoke screen. Entriua coughed violently. "Accident on the road," Undertaker solemnly informed the rest. "Road safety." "It's important," gloated Bill, his smile a mile wide. "You're too right," said Min soberly. "Is there jamming still?" asked Jinto. "Don't worry, Imperial citizen." "Oh wait, sorry, almost forgot, you're a noble," said Bill. "The jamming continues. They can't call for backup. But something is coming." Lafier shaded her eyes with her hand and looked into their traveling direction. The sparkle of Gazanyu lay right before them. Some object clad in flickering, twinkling lights was rising between the shining city trees. Said object took along with it 5 smaller flying objects. Then they passed overhead, soaring by without so much as sparing the gang a glance. When the glowing crest emblazoned on the belly of the largest ship came into view, Marka's shoulders dropped with relief. "Phew, that had me wound up. It's just the fire department." "Well, that fire is pretty huge. They could probably see it from there," said Bill. "Hold on," said Jinto. "That thing might be a plain old fire ship, but it's still flying." "Duh. It's faster than overground." "But the enemy was riding in those cop cars just now, right?" said Jinto. "So it'd seem, but what are you getting at?" asked Min. "I mean, if the enemy took to riding cop cars, what's to stop them from taking over the fire department?"